Hello and welcome to Soups and Sabers. My name is Jordan. With me today. Oh man, we should have done this where we had the back of the chairs and the reveals, but we have Ron with us today.
Dude.
Well, yeah, dude, it was a crazy day, a day that we were not expecting to be this crazy as of like 24 hours ago, but we get this weird sort of announcement that something might be going on this morning. And here we are a day later with a lot to talk about. So much so that we figured it would just be easier to go live tonight. So,
And we have Chris, RK
Totally.
Chris.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm tired. I'm good. It was funny when this whole thing started going down. I'm at work and my phone's just going whistle, 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 and I was like,
Did you not have
I
it
just
muted?
turned it silent.
You don't have it silenced?
No, I didn't. I did it because I'm usually not that important of a person. Like people don't need to get in touch with me very often.
I'm
but,
just imagining
yeah,
like you stocking milk and it's like and the person next to you is like, I think something's happening, bud.
Yeah, today I was just scanning a bunch of holes and low spots, but in like the middle of the store. But nobody cares about that because we got more fun stuff to talk about today.
That we do. So I'll give it to the scoopers on this one. They said something was coming, and it did at the right time. I'll give them kudos for that. How much they actually knew what this was, I don't know, because there was so much conflicting information as it's going on of there's 50 names. This is going to take 10 hours. There's it's only 30 more minutes. Actually, I meant 30 names. Actually, it wasn't even 30 names. Like, like there was so much stuff going on where then like sometimes they were reacting, the scoopers, to some of these names as if they had no clue. So who knows what they actually knew, but they did know something was happening at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And that is what we had. And we've got, it started out with a guy walking in and putting one of the director chairs down with the name Chris Hemsworth on the back of it, like you see on a set. And then every 11 to 12 minutes we got a new name that was about 5 an hour or so. And it was the Doomsday Cast as they have started production of Avengers Doomsday. I'm going to read the names as we go, but before we read the names and stuff, I just want to maybe vent a bit about the people that were throwing fits about this online, I guess.
Yeah.
I just sent you a tweet yesterday that was like the marketing for Superman is non-existent. Then Doomsday goes out there and does this 5.5 hour marketing scheme, and people are like, this was too long. Like, too much marketing for me. It's like, pick one. At this case, here's the thing. I had a ball with it. I think it kept it going for 5.5 hours. It was trending that whole time. People were making memes about it with the chairs. Only Murders in the Building revealed one of their cast members via the chairs because it was that type of moment. And you don't have that if it's in a 1.5-minute reveal. You don't. Like, this hit the zeitgeist, at least on Twitter, enough where people were making jokes about it, enjoying it, seeing each name. And they started off with, and I think they did a very interesting way of not giving us, like, once you hit the Fantastic Four, you give us all the Fantastic Four. They kept spreading it out to where we really didn't know what was next. I don't know if we nailed any of them, Ron. Every time we said somebody was coming up next, they threw the curveball of, actually, we're going to Wakanda now, or now we're going to this person. And, there's names missing that we'll talk about as well. But I just had a real ball with this. It wasn't torture. I guess if you don't have an attention span or you're upset and you just want the info now, it is. But this was something I had on in the background while I'm doing other stuff. And when that music cue changes, I'm like, all right, now let's guess who this is.
Yeah.
If I know the music or if I'm just sitting there puzzled, like, who could this be? And then the name pops up, and for another 10 minutes, I'm leaving it alone. And I'm having come back to it 10 minutes later.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a smart way to do it. You don't have to worry about paying cast members to show up. They literally are just the back of the chair. And it's a relatively low cost, efficient way to get the name out there and get people hyped for Doomsday. But I want to get both of your thoughts on how they did this and kind of like what the vibe was, because I was beyond hyped, more than I've been for Doomsday, I think, at all with it. So let's start with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, dude. You know, we didn't have any clue what exactly to expect. And then they come in and they put this chair in. And you're like, all right, is this like OG Avengers returning? Like, what's going on? And it almost felt like with each chair that got revealed, like as much as it answered a question, it left you with so many more, especially once they started getting into the X-Men of it all and like who was there and who wasn't there. It was just like you really didn't know what was coming next. You know, the first one that I think was probably a real surprise, and we got a lot of them, so I forget the exact order they went in, but I feel like Namor was the first one where you're like, oh, okay, wasn't quite expecting that one. And then it just progressively got more and more to where we're getting these names, and it was like, oh my God. And yeah, all throughout the day, this gave us a chance to formulate theories and talk, and the buzz was crazy in our group chat on Twitter, like all my other chats that I'm in. Like this is the most centrally engaged of a day that I can remember for Marvel fans. And I couldn't even tell you how long, because even the days like when movies comes out, it's like, yeah, some people see it Thursday, some people see it Friday, what have you. But this is the first time in a while that just everyone's been locked in at the same time on one thing. Kind of Comic-Con vibes almost a little bit in terms of that, but we could actually watch it, you know, where it's not just all of us following along on Twitter, refreshing our feeds every 5 seconds. It was just in real time. We were all seeing this and reacting together and enjoying and just being nerdy fans, which is for the most part. There's a lot of people like Jordan referenced too that were just got to be negative about everything. You know, the Goldilocks and the Three Bears thing. You know, this one's too hot, this one's too cold. But there's no just right, because there never will be a just right with some of these people. But we're talking tens of millions of congruent viewers over all different platforms engaging with this thing today and talking about it. And it was just a really great, really fun day. Before we get into all the specifics, that's kind of my aerial view of it. It was a great time, and one that I think we kind of needed as Marvel fans.
Yeah, before we get to Chris here, I just wanted to say, you know, it was. I seen a lot of people saying like, how mean of Marvel or Kevin Feige to be like, you're forced to watch this. I want to make it clear, nobody was forced to watch this. You look, here's the thing, and I also saw some people say casuals, this is not going to put that on their radar or anything. Maybe not. They're not going to sit and watch 5.5 hours, but the casuals will see the minute and a half recap afterwards. And be like, oh, that was a cool way to do it. Like this was for the fans that had like put it on the background, check in every so often and see a new chair. This was a fun way to do it. Like I will stand by that for the this movie could be complete shit, and I'll say that this was a really great way to market the movie as you're going into production. It lasted so much longer than if the Russos just came out and said, ladies and gentlemen, here is the cast, and it like scrolls on the screen. It's like, you know, like like you said, everybody was engaged. We're formulating theories. Why this person? Why not that person? Why this order? Right? Like that was all part of the fun. Chris, you got to join it kind of late, but like, what was your just thoughts as you start seeing us or hearing us tweet at you and catching up on it?
So first off, it hurts nobody, and that's one of the things that I want to stress. But I also think you need to make this an event, because making events like this is showing people, oh yeah, well, I do care about this, because there's so much lethargy, and making it this whole big thing. I don't think you can make it too big of a spectacle if you deliver the goods. And we got the goods today. You look at all those actors that we got today, and then you just think of all the great moments we've had with them, and like, wait a second, how are they going to come together? What is the story going to be like for this? Who's going to be connected? Where are they going? And you just start tying little knots together and untying the knots and tying them, and then you're like, wait a second, there's no Jean Grey and all that stuff. So you there's so much excitement today, and there's so much speculation, and then you're left with this kind of feeling of there's more that we don't know yet, and that's exciting, because they just gave you the goods. Like, we need to stop complaining when people give us the goods because we got them today. Like, I'm very excited about all the different possibilities that we just were out today. And you know what? I didn't know today was going to be an eventful day. I'd rather it be an eventful day than just a regular Wednesday.
Um,
So I'm pumped.
the other part of it is, we were speculating before it happened because the rumor was there is something happening at 8 a.m. and 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. And, Ron and I going back and forth on what could this be, because if it is something that, like, let's say it was a big cast member, let's just say Ian McKellen, right? That's something Deadline would usually just scoop if they know it's coming. They did that when they announced like Miss Marvel and She-Hulk for D23. Deadline came out with, hey, this is being announced like tomorrow, or like it was a half hour before the reveal or something. They usually don't wait. So we were kind of like, well, if the scoopers know it's happening at a certain time, for me, that felt like it has to be something Marvel is in control of announcing, right? And I think one of Disney's marketers like commented on something like, what? When people were speculating it. So I'm like, has to do with the marketing, but like it has to be an announcement. And that's when I was like, it has to be something they're in control of. And this is the type of thing that it is. I didn't know it was going to be this, but like something where you can be like, we know the cast, you don't. Here is the full cast. Like that is, something that really works in that regard.
Yeah, 100%. Well, should we just kind of go down the list now and
I
sort
have
of
all 27 in order. I have the order of the
Want to do it in
release.
chunks?
Well, we'll just start. We started with Chris Hemsworth. It then went to Vanessa Kirby, which was the first curveball for me because I had thought,
So from Thor to Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I thought Thor, and then it's like, okay, let's get the easy ones out of the way that we know are in it, like Hulk, Hawkeye. Guess what? None of those show up on this list. But I was thinking like Ruffalo, Renner, people that we think should be in it that are still on the board, right? Because we know like technically Tony's off the board, Steve's technically off the board, but Thor has been around. He's had a movie in this phase. Like it made sense. Then it goes to Anthony Mackie, Sebastian Stan, Letitia Wright. Then they do this great gag with Paul Rudd where it kind of pans and there's no chair,
so
and then cuts down to show Paul Rudd's tiny chair. Then you get Wyatt Russell, then Tanak Horta Maja from Namor from Wakanda Forever. You get Eben Moss-Bachrach, another Fantastic Four member, The Thing. Then Simu Liu, right? Shang-Chi. Florence Pugh. Then the real curveball happened here with Kelsey Grammer. Yeah. And I still think it's interesting the order they put it in because he's before the onslaught of the X-Men.
Yeah.
So I'm really wondering why that order. Maybe it was the Lawless and a false sense of security. And it's like, oh, Kelsey Grammer. Okay. And then we go back to names like Lewis Pullman, who plays Sentry, Danny Ramirez, Joseph Quinn, David Harbour, Winston Duke. That's right. Modern Family's star, Winston Duke. Then Hannah John Kamen. And then we go Tom Hiddleston with the Loki music. And then Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Alan Cumming. That was a real shock to me. Rebecca Romaine, James Marsden, Channing Tatum, Pedro Pascal, and Robert Downey Jr. And he wrapped it up. One thing I want to point out here, too, if anybody's worried about the Reed Doom relationship, just look at who's sitting next to each other at the very end of this list. It is Reed Richards and Dr. Doom. So I think that feels right. It feels good.
Yeah. They're essentially the two linchpin points of this movie. And it seems like that's what they were trying to imply by the structure of it all, especially with the whole family kind of being broken up. Yeah, that was interesting. You guys got to excuse me. I got a little bit of a chest cold going on here tonight, but I feel like we have to mention, in addition to, I mean, how amazing it is that we're getting all of these X-Men names back. Like, was not. I mean, I even kind of had a feeling like, yeah, maybe we'll get Xavier back. We've seen him before, but like first Ian McKellen, and then once it's like, oh yeah, Nightcrawler, Cyclops, it's like, wow, this is really real now.
Very
It
X-Men
sucks.
heavy. Like it's
Yeah.
yeah.
And it seems like if there was this rumor going around over the last few months of like, oh, this was going to be a sort of Avengers versus X-Men light. Like it's not going to be the whole movie, but these two incurring universes teams sort of going at it is going to be an aspect of this movie. Now it seems like it's all but a certainty that's going to be the case, even though we're missing a few very important pieces to that mix, I would say. But the good thing is they did confirm that we are not done yet. There are still many announcements to come, many big announcements to come. Yeah, there you go. Right there. We got it.
This is right from the horse's mouth here for the audio listeners. That Robert Downey Jr. on Instagram, that's what you call a deep bench of talent. Actually, it's more like a row, but an extra long one. That must be it, right? And Marvel Studios responding, there's always room for more.
So what you're telling me is that they are planning a whole event just centered around announcing Famke Jensen's going to be in this movie. She herself is going to get a whole stream, is what I'm getting.
What we're going to get instead is actually we're going to get the row that is facing these chairs, and it's going to go across those for another 5.5 hours.
Let's go
tomorrow.
I would be here for it, for the record.
Let's go. I'm here. Like,
look, it was a lot of fun. I don't think they're doing this again for like Secret Wars or anything. So I feel like this is a one-time deal. Like I said, if anybody was complaining, once you know the pattern of every 12 minutes, then just log off if you want to wait until the end. But all those people complaining are still retweeting the next person announced.
All right. You didn't have to watch the video. You just update your feed on Twitter, and you just you guys were giving me more than the video was. Like I was like catching up on Daredevil today. I'm like, I'm doing schoolwork, I'm doing chores. Like I'm not watching this video like nonstop. I had it up, but like come on. And like when we get like Kelsey Grammer Beast, you're like, dude, okay. That was
I know
like
some
a real
people
moment because it was
some people weren't shocked by that. Like our friend Jack was not shocked. He said no surprising names until he got to Patrick Stewart. But for me, I was shocked by Namor, and I was shocked by Beast because we have no idea how the story is structured at that point, where I'm thinking this could be like, we know Monica's with it. And that's the thing too. She's off the list. Monica Rambeau is not listed here. So who knows, but like she was last seen with Beast. So obviously you're thinking, oh, they'll follow up that thread, but do they follow it up in Doomsday, or is it a Secret Wars thing? That's where I wasn't sure. So I was kind of under the impression for some reason that it was going to be more 616 based for this movie, and then kind of go into the legacy characters in Secret Wars. But so for me, all the X-Men were kind of a shock.
The other way around.
Well, I don't even know if it's the other way around. I think we're going to get even more in Secret Wars. Like I wouldn't be shocked if we get like Toby, Andrew, Hugh Jackman, right? Ryan Reynolds in Secret Wars. But
there's no way these characters are not in that movie. If they're not in this one, which still is a possibility, we kind of have to operate based on what we know now. But like, there's a good chance most of them, at least some of them, will be in Doomsday. But all of these characters, like there is not one that is going to be left out of this equation in one of these two movies, if not both.
So go through the list that you put out a great tweet about it, I think, right? Of the list of people that were not on the list.
Yeah.
And we can kind of go through that, like big names here.
Yeah, we had Spider-Man, and I put in parentheses S because it's all three Spider-Men. There was not a lick of Spider anywhere near this thing today.
Yeah, not even Madam Web or anything.
No webs.
No, that's the most surprising out of all of them. No Madam Web, no Morbius, none of like Sony just totally boxed out of this thing. It's insane. No, but Doctor Strange, who we know is like another one of the linchpins of this entire multiverse saga, Deadpool and Wolverine, with everything we just saw from them in their movie and the TVA and the Void and all that stuff. Wanda, and like whose powers are tailor made for this kind of story, being able to bend reality, and I'll throw Jean in there too because they're very similar with their powers and things. I mean, Monica Rambeau, you mentioned, Captain Marvel, the Hulk. I mean, America Chavez, same thing with her powers. You know, then you start to get to like the Peter Quills, the Visions, Miss Marvel, Hawkeye, you know, Storm, Halle Berry. It's like there's an incomplete X-Men team here. There is a ton of big-time multiversal players, basically the most crucial multiversal players that weren't even on the docket today. So I am not really too nervous in that regard. At first, you know, I was kind of pulling my hair out a little bit, being like, where the F is Gene? But once we've had some time to be removed from it and, you know, you kind of see these other comments and what they're saying and stuff, it's like, yeah, this is going to be one of the biggest movies of all time. Or these two movies are going to be together like one of the biggest film events ever. So I'm excited. And even though there was a lot of names that were omitted, I think it was for good reason.
So
Yeah,
I kind of think about when I was a kid. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying, I was kind of thinking about when I was a kid and I
When I
didn't
was
want
a
to
boy.
tell my parents everything. Yeah, all right, Wilson. So I didn't want to tell my parents everything. So like I like to admit something, I would tell them more than they needed to know. And I kind of think Marvel's kind of doing this, where it's like they want to keep something a little secret or keep you guessing, but they're going to tell you more than you could possibly deal with in one day. It's like a full sink of water. You can't sift through.
It's like they want you to be like, oh my God, the original X-Men, most of the team. What more could we possibly expect? It's like, yeah, the rest of the team and some other awesome characters. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I know everybody thinks Spider-Man is for sure in this movie, and I'm leaning that way, but I wouldn't actually be shocked if he's not, due to the whole Tom Holland's not able to film right now. Like the rumor was he's going to be like mostly stunt guy and he'd do a dub, right? But he also has Spider-Man 4 right after this movie. Kind of like how we had no Ant-Man in Infinity War, but Ant-Man was in Ant-Man and the Wasp that took place like right before Infinity War, but it came out right after. You know, like maybe we have that type of situation where we don't really see Spider-Man because remember, nobody remembers it's Peter. So it could be like, how do we even get in touch with that kid? Like, I don't know. You know?
Maybe Spider-Man 4 ends with because we know Strange is out there with Clea, like throughout the multiverse doing what they're doing. Maybe
because he has the connection with Strange. Yeah, I mean, like that could work.
And all these, you know, he was basically the first introduction to the multiverse on the film side of Marvel. So like maybe Strange comes and plucks, you know, you're coming with me, kid, sort of thing. And they're not even on Earth while all of this crazy incursion stuff is going down there, traveling through the multiverse.
Could be. So, you know, it's a possibility. I know, like, he could be in the post-credit scene. He could be at the very end seeing something happen, and then we see more of the events through his side during his movie. You know, when you're talking about actually scheduling actors and stuff, it is very tough when they are slammed the way Holland is right now. That I wouldn't be shocked if, you know, he's not like a main focus point of this movie. Some of these characters are definitely going to be the Secret Wars leaders as well.
Yeah.
You know, also I would say so far, I don't think a lot of this points to that concept art being legit, right? Like, who knows which one it was for, but like, we didn't see Peter Quill. We didn't see the Young Avengers. We didn't see, you know, Benedict Cumberbatch, who was definitely in that with Doom in one of those. Like, we didn't see a lot. The Hulk, we didn't see She-Hulk or Hulk in these. So it's either for Secret Wars or it was just old art. Who knows? But so far, I think it's funny because people were calling out the Russos for lying about it not being their art. But then this cast list comes out and I'm like, I might believe that now.
Yeah. I also see a lot of characters on these lists that are on this list that I wouldn't be surprised if we lost along the way. This feels very much like sort of an Infinity War situation where this movie ends and we lose a ton of people, only maybe we lose them like permanently this time, because we know that a lot of these characters are going to be like sent to Battle World and their minds will be wiped like they are in the comics. So it's not just every character they announced, obviously, but I look at this list and I look at some of these Thunderbolts and some of these X-Men and things like that, and it's like, I think we could be seeing a lot of cannon fodder characters in this movie so that when they do Secret Wars, it's like, yeah, we still got to give these characters some time in Doomsday and stuff, but it's not now we have to fit all of these characters and jam all the ones that we missed in this movie into Secret Wars too. It's a way to give, a fair amount of these characters a good little send-off and then just really like kick it into high gear with the important characters in Secret Wars.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we'll definitely lose some people, but I'm just wondering, like, on this list, who, like, I would lean more towards the X-Men than the established people in the MCU. I just think that some of these are still, some of these are still heavy hitters when you're talking about the current Captain America, the Fantastic Four. Maybe some Thunderbolts could go, I guess. I think we could lose Tom Hiddleston's Loki because he is like, we've lost him before as well. But I mean, like, so it's not like a, oh no, you can't kill Loki type of thing. Like, this is a totally different Loki as it is. So,
well, I like what Chris said. Ant-Man, maybe Bucky's in there. Like, there is some classic players who I think are prime candidates to eat it here. I think the most likely
to feel more emotional for one of them.
The what?
You're gonna feel more emotional for one of them, one of the established guys. The older the actor is, the more likely they are to go. I'm looking at the veterans and going, if it's not one of the X-Men, it's Ant-Man's the guy I'm marking as my bet.
Yeah. They can't do it. They can't kill Scott. I will riot.
You make for a heartbreaking death and like a big time bookend to the movie.
Maybe. I don't know. You can't touch Scott Lang. That's my thought. Let him have his happy life with his kid.
We'll see.
After that.
I mean, I'm hoping for it. I'm not like
you're hoping for him to die?
No, I'm hoping for him to get that happy ending. I'm all for Scott Lang. But like, if I'm gonna bet on it,
Yeah, what are the odds? What do we have the odds of Ant-Man dying if we're gonna place a bet on DraftKings? What are the
I'd probably put it at even odds. I'd go like a 50-50.
Okay.
All right.
Some characters have to die in this movie. There has to be some kind of stakes. The universes are incurring upon each other. If all of them survive, it'll be like, come on.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, do they? I guess we all. I don't buy any death until we get to the end of Secret Wars.
Well, that too.
Because of how Infinity War played out. Like, once they killed off Black Panther and Spider-Man, I'm like, yeah, this ain't sticking. Like, it was never going to stick anyway. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Secret Wars can reset everything at the end, and that's the theory, right? We don't know what type of reboot it is after that, but it's a possibility. So I'm not really buying any death until we hit the credits of Secret Wars. But I do hope whatever characters are kind of getting a nice send-off of the Avengers team, we get the nice credits like we did in Endgame. I think that would be really cool.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I think we'll get him. And hopefully we'll get it for all the Sony characters we've lost along the way too. Craven, Adam Webb, Morbius.
Like the Deadpool and Wolverine credit scene.
Yeah,
do that with the Sony ones.
Yeah. Oh man, Michael Keaton, Vulture, all of them.
Not set to that song though. Set to a song where it's kind of like you really missed your chances here with the Sony universe.
So you had a bad day.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. All right, I think we can move towards Daredevil now. We spent a good 30 minutes on this.
Yeah.
So we'll pivot over to Daredevil Born Again, episodes 5 and 6, which both dropped last night, called With Interest and Excessive Force. With Interest was directed by Jeffrey Nachmanoff, written by Grain Godfrey, and Excessive Force was directed by David Boyd, written by Thomas Wong, and they both premiered March 25th, 2025. So I guess let's dive into that first episode, which I've seen has been, for some reason, very controversial online with hashtag filler. Ron, give me your thoughts on With Interest.
Actually, Chris, you start this time because I started last time. I want to hear your thoughts.
All right,
You had
fair
some
enough.
There you go. Just take over the
I
show.
think it was a great heist story. Okay. You know,
I'm kidding. I was talking to Ron. Go ahead, Chris.
I know. Okay. I thought it was a great heist story. I thought the story was tight butted. It felt like a little bit of a day in the life of Matt Murdock. You got really great examples of what he can do with his hearing, and I really like what they do with the camera, very much like they did in the first episode. I really liked all that stuff. I thought it was clever. I thought Matt Murdock came off as very smart in this episode. I don't want to say this was a filler episode. It doesn't progress the story, maybe, but like you had cool Daredevil stuff as him in a suit and tie, Matt Murdock, and that was really fun for me. I thought there was like a lot of good, like just side characters we're never going to see again, like the lady cop who was telling the joke to try to free the hostages. You had Charlie Cox with an Irish accent. He's a British person with an American accent doing an Irish accent in his American voice. Bravo. And then, you know, and then at the end, he's like, "I think I will have one of these candies," and he puts the little diamond thing in there. And I love the Miss Marvel tie. It doesn't hurt. People are saying it was forced, but it literally didn't ruin any part of the story. It's like, ooh, we're connecting it to another Marvel project without really changing anything. Okay, fun. So if you hated this episode because it was filler, get a life. If you didn't like this episode for like another reason, I'm fine, but I enjoyed the daylights out of this one.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%, dude. It made it feel like a lived-in world. You know, this show has largely been kind of its own thing for the most part. You know, there's the lead-ups in Hawkeye and Echo and stuff like that, but like it was nice to see this connect in and remind you, oh yeah, it is part of this larger MCU around us, even if it was just a small ancillary way with Kamala Khan's dad, who I guess the actor got all that stuff sorted out that was going on, which is
I don't think it was ever like, I don't know. I think that was all like rumors and stuff. I don't think it was ever actually like press charges or anything.
Yeah, he wouldn't be in the show if he was. So that deads it right there. But it was nice, you know, it was nice to get a bit of a reprieve from all the heaviness. As great as this show has been, and the heaviness is a large part of that, it is nice to come back up a little bit here and there. It was light in its own kind of daredevilish way, you know, as light as an episode could be, where your titular hero breaks a guy's leg in half at the ending. But it was good. It was fun. You know, it was a little quippy. There were some funny interactions, like with them trying to come up with the joke and all that stuff that may have bordered on corny a little bit. But like, I even think of when Matt's on the phone after he leaves the bank and he hears like the screaming and he just goes, "Kirsten, call 911," and then hangs up the phone and just starts running back. Like, it just, there was parts of this episode that like I genuinely laughed, which is the first time that's happened in this show. And it was just very much a welcome change up. And it's not even like it's the only episode we got this week. We got a much heavier one afterwards. So like, why are you complaining? Like, what is there to complain about? Just have some fun for once, you know?
Yeah.
I'm sure that some of the people complaining are different than the people complaining the other weeks, but it is funny when we get like, we need more episodes of TV, but then like when we get one that's relatively standalone, or they're like, I just want to, like, people have said that about Spider-Man. I just want to see him fight people street level. We got to see that with Daredevil, and then they're like, maybe we want to get back to the main story. And I'm
Not
like,
this
well,
kind of street
yeah,
level. Yeah. I was talking about blank. Yeah.
And I'm like, I thought it was a lot of fun. I also think it's funny that there were people that have seen these episodes, and they report it like there is another reference to an Avenger, right? To another Marvel hero is what they said. And that they say them by name or whatever. And people that had also seen these episodes retweeted that and said, "This is false. This is false." And then they were like, "There's only a Funko Pop of Miss Marvel, and he says her name once." And I'm like, "Well, then that is referring to another character in the Bible." I was really confused. I'm like, then they are telling the truth, because saying Miss Marvel is referencing that character. I don't understand why people were trying to say this was false. We clearly got it in this episode, so I don't understand what they were. It was right after forget what it was. It was after the Spider-Man reference and the Punisher reference. People were going around saying in another episode there's a reference to another Marvel hero, and people were saying that was false, and it was true. It was this one. It was Miss Marvel. So I think that's funny that people that even watched the show were both disagreeing on that, because I'm like, okay. It shows how the game of telephone is played with like scoopers and people that share stuff, because that was easily cleared up. My camera got unplugged. Oh well. I'm gonna just keep going. It's been doing that sometimes. Okay. So then I really enjoyed this episode as well. I love Miss Marvel, so seeing her dad in this was great. The twist got me too. I was not like that woman who was the one that he handed the stone to. I was not suspecting her, but because she was one that was like, I don't think the manager's here, and like, she was one that was seen as like being kind of the spoken one for some of these hostages. So I thought that was really interesting that they went that route. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I will say I had to close my eyes at the leg break. I couldn't handle that.
Oh God, yeah, it was nasty.
Yeah, they would not show the instant replay.
No, they're cutting straight to commercial on that one. We also did get, though, in that whole interaction with Kamala's father, he drops the throwaway line in there about how she's out in California visiting some friends. We know Cassie Lang is out there right now, and knowing how
the Young Avengers,
or champions, whatever.
That's the new rumor,
whatever they're gonna label it as. It seems like they're all getting together, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to think that that's probably going to play into one of these next two Avengers movies we've got coming out as well, considering it's not going to happen in Thunderbolts or Fantastic Four. Ironheart was filmed before any of this stuff. So unless they went back and like did some new like shots and stuff to make that more like connected to Champions, which I mean, it would make sense considering Riri, young with all of them and stuff.
I just doubt it though, because like I don't know if they want to add cost to a project that's been sitting there. So it's probably just like, nah, it's done.
Or maybe just a post-credit scene of like the same thing with like how Kate went to recruit Kamala at the end of the Marvels, like same kind of thing like that. But yeah, they're going to be involved somehow going forward. So
the rumor is a TV show, right? That came out this week that they have like a writer attached.
I didn't see that.
Somebody reported that a day or two ago. That we're getting a Champions TV series, which was a shock to me because I felt like you'd want to lean on the Young Avengers name instead of Champions. And I also thought we were kind of done with the big TV shows after how they were kind of going with these where there are more possibilities of multiple seasons and maybe not a big cast like Haley Steinfeld, like some of these big names that the Young Avengers are going to have. So, but yeah, that was a nice reference to her and the rest of the crew. Almost like a West Coast Adventures vibe too, with like, oh, they're out in the West.
Mm-hmm. Oh, who knows? Maybe they're even in Wonder Man in a little bit of a bit role. Like
Hmm.
maybe they're in an episode very much in the way that like
I
Kamala's
keep
father
forgetting
was in
that's a
this one.
thing.
Yeah, yeah. So they could even be in there. But more likely than not, they're going to play a big part because Billy / Tommy, who knows how they're going to get back together, but you'd think they're going to also end up with him. So there's like this whole, I genuinely do think this is all. I think Doomsday is going to be a very long movie. And I don't think the whole plot of this movie is just going to be Avengers and X-Men related stuff, them two going at it. And granted, they've got to, completely set up Doom basically and do all that stuff too. But I think there's going to be a portion of this movie that is, Young Avengers adjacent, related. We're going to be with them for at least a small part of it.
Maybe. I'm actually now Young Avengers or Champions does make sense as a show because a lot of these characters started out on Disney Plus. You talk about Kate Bishop and Miss Marvel and Billy and Tommy, like whoever else is going to be part of that squad. If you are talking about Ironheart, like, yes, she was in Black Panther, but she's going to have a show on here. Like, maybe it does make sense. Maybe I was wrong. And that, like, that's going to be their TV team ups that they're having, kind of like how we used to get Defenders.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else about the first episode of the week?
Not really, man. It's why it's good we got two of them. Oh, Chris, what were you gonna say?
The only thing is with the different colored masks. I don't know if any of you guys follow the band Masked Intruder, but like there's one that wears a red mask, a blue mask, a yellow, and a green mask. And it was like, I wonder if the writers are like Masked Intruder fans. Only other.
I'm not sure. I know the green one is an actual the main, like the Irish guy is an actual Marvel villain. His name is Sin Eater. I don't know how much.
Oh, not Green Hood.
No. No, yeah, Sin Eater. I guess his thing is that he eats sins. I'm not super familiar with the character, but
thanks, Ron. I kind of got that vibe from the name.
Yeah. If you guys didn't know, what he does is So who knows if we'll see him again? He'll probably have a limp if we do, but yeah, I don't know. Interesting, but yeah, it's that's kind of the sucky part because it was such a smaller, condensed, like its own thing kind of story. There's not really too much to break down. There was a robbery and it got stopped. And at the end of the day, the good guys won. That was like basically kind of the premise of it,
Oh, wow. Okay. So Sin Eater, on the cover of Amazing Spider-Man Volume 5, number 45, May 2020, has like a green hood just like this with like a fake police badge or police badge on him and a gun. So yeah, pretty accurate to the to what he looks like in this. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's go to Excessive Force, which kind of picked up from last week. And also, I want to say, like, obviously, the changes, that was one that they said was the most untouched from before they did the rewrites. And also, remember, that season was going to be 18 episodes long. So there is of course, there were going to be episodes like that were a little bit more detached from the main narrative because they were going to have 18 episodes. It might stick out a little bit more on a 9-episode season, but I think it was fun. Excessive Force picks up more from where we left off with, Muse has dumped the body that he was draining the blood out of. We have Fisk, who is right after his meal with Adam, pretty much that was in the previously on, and then we kind of see him visit Adam again, and then we also have the Return of the White Tiger storyline with Angela's Angela Ayala coming back and talking with Matt Murdock. And she's getting captured by Muse, which pushed the Muse storyline forward a little bit, but seems like that might be wrapped up now.
For now, I think for this season, probably, but he'll be back. I mean, he's obviously alive. and they set him up way too much to just that be it. Like he is really, really cool. I actually, the more I think of it, I don't even know if it'll be the end for now. It would feel, this whole thing was like Fisk basically sets up this whole task force to find him. So like for him to just sort of disappear in the shadows and now he's gone, like, I don't know. I think I could see him being more of a player throughout these last 3 episodes. Maybe like in the end of the season, the task force takes him out. And that's like what in the public's mind solidifies that like, oh, this task force is a great thing. They're cleaning up the streets, when in reality, they're just a bunch of cops who abuse their power.
Yeah, at the very least, he's a catalyst. I mean, he's a catalyst for Wilson Fisk anti-vigilante thing. I actually thought it was interesting that because Muse wears a mask, he's counting him in the vigilante.
As a vigilante,
camp,
yeah.
The anti-vigilante. Yeah, I was like, he's like, you guys don't wear a mask. I want them to see you because you're New York's finest. And he's like, you're basically telling them that you're not New York's finest. You're New York's, will do the job, the dirty job. But, I think as a catalyst for Fisk, this works whether we see Muse or not.
We also got to see Jack, the swordsman.
Yes, Jack Decade.
Sadly, not in his swordsman gear. He's just doing his socialite stuff at this time. But
there was the shot on the BB report of him doing a little slicing and dicing.
Was there? I missed that. Yeah.
Yeah, there was this
was.
when they were doing the BB report, there was a one shot of him, like I don't know if they were like thugs in a park or something, but he's got the sword and he's in all black and he's like,
okay. Yeah, I missed that. I'll have to go back and see it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like literally 3 seconds. It was very quick, but they do show him.
At first, when you said that, I thought you meant like BB is just filming and he's like, watch me do this.
Oh, no.
But, he's like fighting real guys. Okay.
I'm God. No, but yeah, this episode was interesting because it not only do we start to see the task force in itself, but we also start to see a little bit more of that whole power struggle thing with Vanessa and Fisk, like this mobster Luca, the one who essentially gets burned for the diamond that he was going to use to pay the thing, basically walks all over Fisk when he meets him, like shows no fear, no anything whatsoever, like things that when you were watching the first Daredevil show, you would never imagine somebody doing, right? And there's this little tracksuit mafia goofball, that we met from Hawkeye, and he's like reading him the rights. So I think that was kind of like the breaking point of Fisk of like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna take control back. I'm gonna set things up the way I want them with this task force. I am gonna oversee all of this, the police, all of it. Like people forgot who I am, so it's time to remind them, sort of thing.
Yeah, and that kind of sets him down his warpath with Adam as well, right? It's like, again, and the way that they shoot this and edit this to being like his fight with Adam hand in hand with Muse and Daredevil's fight, where they've both now sank back to their old ways fully, is just perfect. Again, showing the juxtaposition, but also how similar these two guys are, and just one is good, one is bad, but like how similar they are, that they're cutting back and forth between these fights as Matt has fully donned his Daredevil gear, and we kind of get Wilson referencing his father, about like when I was younger.
Never done that before.
Yeah, I had to take on men that were so much bigger than me, but I used a tool, right? And talking about the hammer. So he gives Adam the hatchet and, still beats him. But just again, I really like the way that they're setting those two up.
And they both, at the end of the day, they both make the decision to let their opponent live. It doesn't look like Adam's alive, but he is. He's moving on the ground there. He's still alive.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I was like, is he alive? Is it like he's brain dead but flinching or what? Like
that's a little like Batman, but yeah, he's got 11 broken bones and a broken neck, but he's alive.
Their arms
He'll be
like
the
this
Cobra the
way.
rest of
Yeah.
his life, but he's alive.
In
Yeah.
Arkham, the Arkham games, when you just like totally curb stomp the guy and you're like, talk.
Talk. Yeah, yeah. That was what it
I
was
don't know
like.
anything, I swear.
Batmobile wheel on his deck.
Yeah, yeah. But they do. They both ultimately choose to let their opponent live, which again just sort of highlights the parallel of like two different sides of the coin, but kind of on the same path, sort of thing that they've not even close to subtly been trying to imply to us this season. What else do we got from this episode? We got Muse. We got the. Somebody help me out here.
Well, I really liked the whole Angela thing when she goes to see Matt. He's kind of said before, like, come see me if you need anything. And then she's like, hey, he was investigating, my uncle was investigating this guy, Muse. And he's like, great, what do you want me to do about it?
Yeah.
Because he's like, I'm done my vigil anyways. She doesn't know that, right? But for him, he's like, there's nothing I can really do legally, right? And she's like, I don't know, just do anything. And then when you get that on top of her, her family calling Matt and saying, hey, have you seen her? It starts clicking for him that, hey, you know what? Maybe she's right. This is something I got to do. We also get Cherry telling him, like, this is a serial killer who's killed 60, did he say?
60. Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot for a serial killer.
How great is it too when Angela's mom calls Matt and he's like, just stay where you are, whatever. And he just goes, fuck it. And then the music starts playing. It's like, oh yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
You know what's going down. Down.
Perfect.
I think the best thing was the callback to the first episode and the heartbeat of Foggy and the heartbeat of this girl that he's trying to save that's mad at him for not doing what he thinks is his responsibility. When she says the cops won't do, the cops killed my dad. What do and then you got the heartbeat going back to Foggy. The emotion that he's feeling while he's fighting this just creepy serial killer. And the other part I love was Wilson Fisk is like telling the police, like, when the sanitation guy figures out, that there's a serial killer before the cops, maybe we shouldn't care about protocols so much. Like, he just breaks out laughing. And it was like, that was such a Kingpin moment.
And he's kind of right, like, in his own messed up way. Like, at the end of the day, like,
he's totally right. But also, onto the police side of it, his response is, we have a serial killer out there. You've already cut my men's hour. You already cut the force. You also cut overtime. Like, how are we supposed to do this?
Yeah.
Right. So, like, maybe that's part of the reason why they weren't catching him, is because he's already made those changes to do that. Now, of course, obviously, we've seen in the earlier episodes, Muse was around doing stuff already before Fisk became elected, I guess. But so then that which causes him to do the task force with Powell there. So I'm wondering if he will, we were kind of thinking maybe he'll have more of a redemption arc, maybe not now. By the end,
I will say there was a split second shot in there. There was a split second shot in there where he looked a little like what's this guy blowing? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think
more, Ron.
Yeah. No, I think
I
think
he's the guy on the inside.
And maybe he gets found out and
he's standing off. Yeah. He's kind of standoffish in that scene. He's not really, he's kind of looking like, what are we doing here? So,
and we also got introduced to Cole North in that scene. So, like, he's going to be what seems to be, leading up to this, you would think that Powell would be the one to be like the lead of the task force. But then they introduced this other guy, and now it's, there's going to be an interesting dynamic there. I don't think our theory of Powell's redemption arc is dead by any means, but I do think it could lead to him being dead if he's found out. Say he starts like helping Daredevil or whatever, what happened?
Yeah, like he goes to Murdoch, like, hey, this is what they're doing. It's not right with what using the badge like this, thing.
Because that's what he says, about my father and my grandfather, and like. Apparently, even though he's not really an honorable guy in his weird, messed up way, there is some kind of code there. So, I could definitely see that still being a thing.
for people that don't know who Cole North is, in the comics, he was in the Zdarsky Chichetto run in Daredevil #1, Volume 6. He was a detective for the NYPD who came from Chicago. He was assigned a homicide case regarding Daredevil and had no likings to vigilantes. After Daredevil was apprehended by Cole North, he got further humiliated when Daredevil was sprung out of police custody by the Punisher. Then when Mayor Fisk started taking over, he directed the NYPD to take down local vigilantes. North was assigned to go after Spider-Man. So thank you, Wikipedia. But yeah, if you haven't, if you were not familiar with him, that's who he is. And that's the guy that, Wilson Fisk is like, hey, you're, you made detective really quick and was like really impressed by him. That's the guy.
And there have been, we hate to do this, but there have been some set photos from season 2 that show him, pretty riot geared up, looking pretty official. So it seems like he's going to pretty quickly.
There were set photos from season 1 too, actually, I think, of him.
Oh,
with the, okay. I think so. Yeah.
Okay. But either way, yeah, it seems like they're setting him up for a pretty big role.
Yeah. So that'd be cool. I'm really curious how the anti-vigilante task force will work out. I like your idea of like them taking down Muse, and maybe the people of the New York are like, hey, that's pretty cool that they took down, a guy that that Daredevil couldn't, even though Daredevil was the one that took him down or something, for the first part of it, or stopped him.
It would also be interesting too if they still did that, because they set up that hook with him and Heather at the book signing thing.
Yeah.
It would be interesting if they still did something with that at the end of the season, and it's a thing where like Matt can't get there to save her, but the vigilante task force ends up being the one to do it. So in this weird way, Matt has to like almost be thankful for this vigilante task force that's actively out to get him. I think there's room for some very interesting dynamic there.
Well, let's talk about the whole Heather thing, right? Because she has a interesting conversation with Matt where she's trying to get him to introduce her, right, to like Frank or to Daredevil. Like she wants to meet some of these vigilantes, and he kind of gets out of it, luckily for now. But I don't know, where do you think she is pro-vigilante? Do you think maybe there's a twist where she's anti-vigilante and not letting that on? It's just a very weird conversation that she was having.
What do you think, Chris?
I think she's a little bit going to be stunned by Charlie Cox, Matt Murdock. I think she's going to think, he's just this blind guy, he's a lawyer. I think it's going to throw her for a loop at some point. I think at some point down the line, they're going to get too close. She's going to know, and she's going to have a big conflict of interest on her hands because she's also Fisk's therapist.
Yeah. So I do think that she is pro-vigilante. I think her like writing this book kind of implies that, at the very least, that she's vigilante curious. I don't know if that's like the way to put it or whatever, but yeah, I don't know. And I think if she's not right now, I think over the course of writing this book, depending on how far she gets, because you never really know what's going to happen on a week to week basis with the characters in this show. One week they're here, next week they might not be. But if she continues to write this book and stuff, like there is definitely going to be a little bit of that cat and mouse between like Matt. Does he tell her who he is? Does he not? Her becoming more sympathetic towards vigilantes and things like that. So yeah, I think she's pretty.
Or could it go the other way? Because what you were what you were talking about made me really question this. Is when you were talking about Matt maybe being thankful for the anti-vigilante task force if they save her. What if her being in the, clutches of Muse, and Daredevil or Punisher not being able to save her maybe turns her against the idea of vigilantes more? Like, hey, the people that saved me were the cops, and or like, like that could be a very cool way to go about it as well. And then she finds out, and she's like, "Oh my god, this guy I'm dating has been."
What if she
lying to me.
turns him in, and then that's how they end up doing the Daredevil representing himself in court as Daredevil thing. Maybe that's how they get to that.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Yeah. So there's ways that it can happen. My
She was
camera's
almost-
glitching out.
Whoa.
She was almost like weirded out by the fact that he was praying and the whole foggy thing. So I wonder if she's, as a therapist, is worried about his trauma response or he's grieving and not being able to say things. So she's going to think he's holding something back from her, which is only going to lead her further into the Daredevil stuff.
Yeah. And he is holding back a lot from her, so she would be accurate in that assessment for sure.
Yeah. But the praying stuff, I just wanted to lightly touch on that too, because I kept hearing before the show premiered that they didn't get enough into his religion, but I feel like, or that it was barely there. I feel like it's there, like episode 2, he felt like he wasn't worthy enough to step into that church. So he listens to the sermon, and now, he is now praying again, and it came up at a very, poignant time when he's trying to save Angela, that he really did. And, he decided not to kill Muse, where it seemed like maybe that was weighing on him. But I don't know, like, sometimes I wonder what these people who watched all of the episodes before they premiered are talking about when it comes to some of this stuff, because it's there. It's not as in your face, I guess, because he doesn't go to the church every episode, but like, it's still, the theme is there. It's still a very underlying theme. It's not like they completely ignored his Catholicism or anything.
No, I think you're right. I think it's just because there was such a heavy prominence of it in the original Netflix show, like him going to confession all the time and all of this stuff, like with his priest and all that. Like, it was a major focal point storyline. So I think that's probably what people were talking about. But at the end of the day, it's just another thing for people to complain about. Like, there's enough of it that you can't just sit there and say, "Oh, they don't even touch on it anymore." Like, yeah, they do, but this is a Matt who's also been through a lot and probably has his faith pretty well shaken right now. So it makes some sense that he might not be quite as embracing the faith side of things as he was in the previous show.
I do miss that character though, of the preacher guy. He was a good character. He had some really good anecdotes in that show, the Netflix show. Very memorable ones.
Yep. He can't come back anyway, so he's...
No, unfortunately.
I don't
know. Multiverse, you never know.
Could you imagine, like, that's the benefit of the multiverse? They're like, we got the father from 615 who's going to come in and he's going to replace you.
Steps through the sling ring portal.
Yeah. Daredevil's like, yeah, my guy. He's back.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I can't see. That's the type of thing that
from across the room.
Last week that was funny.
Like, Father?
Last week that was funny too, though, when like the guy who he was representing was just like totally like being mean about his disability. It's like, I'm sure he's gotten that a lot, but we never really explored that, so I thought that was pretty interesting to get to.
It was funny. Yeah,
well, the guy at the bank was trying to show him a Funko Pop. Like,
yeah, Kamala's dad.
But we know he can see stuff.
He's like,
it just looks different. So like, could he see the outline of the Funko?
Jordan was across the bank like, oh my, I need to get me one of those. Add it to the collection.
Yes, got to. Well, next week is episode 7, and then we have 8 and 9. There's only 3 weeks left here.
Crazy.
Yeah, we'll be finished on April 15th, and then we get ready for Andor season 2.
Yes. Oh, one thing I did want to throw in really quick before we get out of here. We did get a sort of second half of the season trailer, and we do get a shot.
Which I did not watch.
Oh, okay. Well, there's just one shot in particular I wanted to mention, because we get a shot of Bullseye and he's got his tooth like out, and it's in between his teeth. In the comics, there is a story where he breaks out of prison using his own tooth as a weapon. So it seems like that's where we might be headed with this. So it seems like Dex is probably going to be out of prison soon. Probably, I'm going to guess maybe
for the
not
finale,
this upcoming episodes, but one of the last two. Yeah, just to kind of set up his return for next season and whatever, because it still feels like Foggy's going to end up coming back and all this. So that we'll start to see those crumbs probably in these last few.
I don't know. I'm still not buying the Foggy stuff.
I hope not. It was a very impactful moment. I would hate for them to take it away.
Just sling ringing again. It's like, oh, we got Foggy
with
from
the priest.
614 here.
You thought it was just me, did you? Another one. When Ben Affleck Daredevil comes through on two, it's just
Avengers.
Daredevilers. I don't know.
Yeah. Netflixers, we're here.
Yeah. Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron
On
Fist.
your left, Matt. On your left.
When Iron Fist comes in, they're like, "No, you go back. You go back."
Yeah. we'll use Jessica Henwick instead. We're not bringing Danny Rand back. Okay. Well, I guess that's it, really. Like, there's a lot that happened, but when we're going already an hour due to the Avengers news as well. But ultimately, Daredevil is back. He has made his choice. He has suited back up. And we have Wilson Fisk, who is now back as the Kingpin. So probably get a nice little standoff against them again by the finale. I would hope that they have another nice conversation. It'd be great if it was in the diner again and just kind of this, but they're both like suited up or something.
Yeah. Couldn't resist, huh? Nope.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you all for watching or listening along. This is Soups and Sabers. You can contact us at Soups and Sabers on all of our social media. We had some great episodes this past week where we had Andy DeGenova from Holy Batcast, and we did a great draft for our favorite DC hero suits. Then we had absolute Batman coverage, and our friend Scott Snyder, commented on our YouTube video, so you can check that out. But Ron, Chris, and Chris Evans, not Captain America. Actually, that's why he wasn't at the reveal. That's why I didn't show his chairs, because he was on our show talking absolute Batman.
As he should.
So that was just up talking issue 6. That's going to be a monthly thing going forward. And then we had this, and we have a great stuff coming forward as well. But so just keep an eye out on all of our socials for the next episodes that are going to continue to drop. But yeah, thank you all for watching and listening. We'll catch you next time here on Soups and Sabers.